In the 16th century, one of the English colonies located on Roanoke Island disappeared without a trace. 90 men, 14 women, and 11 children, as if by the will of evil forces, fell through the ground. There were no signs of a struggle, no notes, not even human remains. Some blamed it on the Indians, others blamed it on pirates. There were even versions of a bloody cult requiring human sacrifices. But what happened to the colonists? Let's try to figure it out. The Roanoke Colony was founded on the island of the same name, which was located on the outer shoal. This was the name given to the 300-kilometer strip of sandy islands separating the North Carolina coast from the open ocean. Continental America was poorly explored at that time, so English sailors believed that this isthmus separated the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, serving as direct access to rich China. In 1584, Queen Elizabeth commissioned her favorite Walter Raleigh to found the first English colony in the New World on this isthmus, which was also to become an outpost in the struggle for influence with the Spanish Empire. A month after the Queen's decree, Walter Raleigh sends an expedition to the shores of North Carolina, which carefully examines the outer shoals, tries to find a passage to China, and also establishes diplomatic relations with local Indian tribes. Next year, the first group of colonists goes there. More than 100 people were landed on the northern part of Roanoke Island. They were supposed to return for them in a year, bringing new colonists and supplies. During this time, the colonists, under the leadership of Ralph Lane, built a small fort and even managed to come into conflict with one of the Indian tribes. All the Indians were burned alive on charges of stealing a silver bowl. Perhaps this incident will play a key role in the disappearance of the colony in the future. However, the first group of colonists held out for more than a year. They managed to burn down another Indian village and even search for the legendary source of eternal life, which the conquistador Juan Ponce de Leon had previously tried to find. The search was unsuccessful, but the ships promised by Walter Raleigh still did not arrive. The first difficulties with food began. By luck, it was at this time that the famous English pirate Francis Drake sailed past the island and agreed to take most of the colonists back to England. Together with these colonists, tobacco, corn, and even potatoes came to Europe for the first time. In 1587, almost 2 years later instead of the promised one, Raleigh's ships finally reached the shores of Roanoke. Here they were to meet the remaining colonists who had refused the services of Francis Drake. But, as it turned out, even they escaped by boat from the vengeful Indians. It seemed, why would the Indians take revenge on innocent colonists? John White, who commanded the second group of colonists, decided to leave 115 people on the island, including his granddaughter, while he went back to England to tell Walter Raleigh about everything and ask for more help. Only 3 years later, John White, along with 2 ships, returned to Roanoke, but there was no one there. The British carefully studied the deserted colony. There were no signs of struggle or human remains in it. There were also no signs that the colonists should have left in case of possible relocation. 115 people seemed to simply disappear. The only clue was the strange words carved on the palisade. Crow, probably the initial letters of Croton, they said. This was the name of the neighboring Indian tribe living on the island of the same name. Perhaps they attacked the settlement. Perhaps the settlers themselves, fleeing some threat, decided to move to Croton Island. One way or another, John White did not have time to conduct an expedition to search for the missing colonists. A strong storm arose and the ships were forced to put to sea. And only 12 years later, the British returned to Roanoke again. But even then, the search did not bring any clarity. The most popular version says that the English colonists decided to go deep into Indian territories because they were experiencing serious food problems. Thus, Roy Johnson, who devoted his life to the disappearance of the colony, found out that several white people lived on the neighboring lands of the Iroquois, where they were used as slaves in a copper mine. He suggested that these people were survivors from Roanoke, and one of them, a young girl, was the granddaughter of John White. On the other hand, this version does not explain why the colonists did not leave symbols when they decided to leave the settlement. Part of the answer to this question can be the inscription Croton, that is, the direction in which the colonists lived. But why did they ignore the accepted signs, leaving such a mysterious message instead? A more convincing, but less popular version is that the Roanoke colony was taken by surprise by the Indians. so the residents were unable to organize resistance and were captured. The fact that more than 100 people left no clear evidence even in the Indian territories, where the British were also looking for them, possibly related to human sacrifice. Thus, the aforementioned tribe of Croton Indians worshipped a rather bloody deity to whom Indians from other tribes were often sacrificed. Perhaps white people were good victims too. This version is partly supported by the confession of a leader with the unpronounceable name Wahan Sunakok to John Smith, the founder of the later colony of Jamestown. The leader admitted to killing English settlers on one of the islands, demonstrating as evidence a tool typical of Europeans. The remaining versions try to find an explanation both in the machinations of the Spaniards, who sought to destroy the English colony, and in the attempt of the colonists to independently cross the ocean to reach the shores of their native England. Thanks to everyone who watched this video to the end. To find out about the latest releases, you just need to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell. Also, leave your thoughts in the comments and give it a thumbs up. See you soon.